It's time for the Josh Kirby on Sports Podcast.
On this edition of the Kirby on Sports Podcast, we talk Bills Chiefs, Ravens versus Colts, and the Chargers versus the Browns. Plus, some big news around the National Football League and so much more. All coming your way next. You're listening to the Kirby on Sports Podcast.
Shout out Q. Shout out Q.
Indeed, I'm glad you connected. This is Dave Johnson, voice of the Washington Wizards. You have connected to the right place because you are listening to my man, Josh Kirby on Sports Podcast.
Coming to you from the Trumbull Insurance Agency virtual studio, this is another edition of the Kirby on Sports Podcast. Turn your stress and anxiety into peace and security with Trumbull Insurance. Make sure you contact Patrick Bankemper with the Trumbull Insurance Agency for all your insurance needs. 540-532-0622. You can also email him, Patrick, at TrumbleAgency.com. For our sponsors, Regroup Building Services, PM Plus Reserves, Shenandoah Primitives, Dr. Dave Leadership Corporation, and Mark Francis with Icon Real Estate. We have a lot to get into on another exciting edition of the Kirby on Sports Podcast. I'm joined by the three-man booth in Dan Demski and the Swiss Army knife in Carlos Martinez. Gentlemen.
Oh, how you doing? How you all doing today?
Doing all right. Can't complain.
Carlos is in a remote location. We cannot.
No, we can't talk about that. We can't.
I'm coming to you live from a cabin in the middle of America.
I said remote location.
I cannot confirm or deny where my location is. Just know that I'm here to give the goods.
Off the grid.
Off the grid. Gentlemen,
I'm not really off the grid, but this is more of a
off the grid with electricity and internet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, gentlemen, an exciting week in the NFL this week.
Yeah.
So why don't we dive right in? Are we ready?
Let's dive.
Yep.
Try not to hit our heads.
Yep, exactly, Dan. We'll start off with a Sunday night matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. And this game was delayed by lightning, so it was sort of a prolonged halftime. I went to bed by then because I'm not staying up to listen to Drew Brees talk about peanut butter and jelly. But anyways, I saw that first half, and the Bills were on top of it. Carlos, I know you watched most of this game. I will let you give your thoughts in just a moment, but I feel like the Bills wanted revenge from this AFC Championship game last season where the Chiefs beat the Bills. And it looks like to me, and I think you said it best, Carlos, that the Chiefs are in trouble here on defense if they cannot fix the defense.
Yeah, it's been the reoccurring issue every game, even from when they beat like the Browns. The defense just isn't playing up to par, and it's very concerning. I really don't know. I think I said, I think they just think that Patrick Mahomes is always going to save them, and it's just clear Patrick Mahomes can't always save them. And I think they become too reliant. I think they're a victim of their own success because of that, because they think, they've been cocky about, falling behind and thinking they can, make up any, deficit, they can cover it and, take the lead back. But, ultimately it's starting to bite them in the ass, and, they got to really figure it out. Now, luckily they have, a game to, kind of get their confidence back, coming up this week, which we will be at live. We're going to watch this beat down live. assuming it goes that way, because who knows? Maybe they're too demoralized from this, and maybe Washington actually beats them. In which case, then you definitely have to start hitting the panic button. Mahomes has been sloppy too. He's turned the ball over. He's had more interceptions in these last few games than he has, in each of his last couple seasons. It's concerning. The other thing that I pointed out also was, they have this offense is become predictable now. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes can do the unpredictable stuff in the big plays, but ultimately, if they're able to contain Tyreek Hill from doing a big play, contain Travis Kelce from dominating, catching short passes or in the mid-level game, there's really nobody else. Clyde Edwards-Helaire got hurt in this game, but ultimately he also just has not really panned out the way that the Chiefs thought he was going to pan out. And I also pointed this out in the group message. This is why Sammy Watkins was so crucial to Kansas City's offense, because he provided that number 2 option where I don't think Kansas City has a number 2. Yes, they have Pringle. Yes, they have Hardman, but I don't think those guys are really a number 2 wide receiver the way Watkins was. That takes eyes that will relieve pressure off of like Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire just hasn't really panned out. Like I said, he hasn't really been an effective running back the way they thought he was going to be. I think he's too small personally. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of issues with this team. I still think that they're going to figure it out also because, with the way, the Raiders are going, which we'll talk about later, but the way things are shaping out for them, I think ultimately they're going to probably fall into last place. I think Kansas City just needs to find a way to outplay Denver and get in, because they're not going to catch Los Angeles at this point.
Yeah, I think you pretty much hit on everything, Carlos. But yeah, one thing to keep in mind, especially with this game, is how great Buffalo's defense was. I mean, they knew the way to beat the Chiefs. They know how to contain that passing game, especially, and they did a great job of it, and especially forcing those 2 interceptions by Mahomes. The one really wasn't his fault. It wasn't the best pass, but it was dropped off the hands of I think it was Pringle, maybe. I'm not 100% sure. I was in and out on this game just because the delays and other things that were happening, and then of course Mahomes had the second pick and the fumble as well. So yeah, it's become an issue. I do think that there is room for concern, especially when you're sitting at 2-3. Now, in a 16-game regular season, you would say it's going to be tough from here. But certainly it's still a long way to go. We still got 12 games left. So it's, or 12. Yeah, it is 12. I got to do math in my head. So yeah, I think we know how bad the defense has been. We've talked about that all season. I mean, they've given up 30 or more points seemingly every week. So, the fewest points they surrendered was week 1 against Cleveland, where they only gave up 29. So they've been pretty consistent on how many points they're going to give up. And we've seen teams slowly start to figure out how to defend this offense. And we saw it in the Chargers game a couple weeks ago. We almost saw it in the Philadelphia game. The Chiefs were able to finally turn it on late there and get going in the right direction. But yeah, I think, it just goes to show you that, the NFL is sort of unpredictable a lot. I think we all thought this game was going to be a lot closer, a lot better of a football game. Buffalo is, they're definitely the team to beat in the AFC. They've proven that. And with this win and how they dominated on both sides of the ball, they've definitely shown that they're right there. And that Buffalo defense, they don't get enough credit, but they deserve a ton of it. And it's just going to be another wrinkle to their team as to not just talking about Josh Allen and what their offense can do, because we know that. We know all the weapons they have and what they're capable of doing. But now all of a sudden you have to contend with how good this defense has gotten. And Knox, what a great job he's done stepping into that role, becoming really their leading receiver. And I'm glad he's on my one fantasy team, because I would not be in good shape if he wasn't. So but yeah, I think the Chiefs, it's weird to say, but yeah, I think maybe their best shot right now is to try to get a wild card spot. Of course, you have an extended, an extra playoff team. So, there's more opportunities this year. I still think they'll end up making the postseason. I don't really think that's going to be an issue, but they're going to have to start showing that they're improving, especially even a little bit on the defensive side of the ball. They can't give up 30 or more points a game and expect to win. I don't care who you're going up against. And that, that's the number one thing for them. I think for Buffalo, I mean, they've just turned it around after that week 1 performance where they really didn't have a great offensive performance, but the defense played really well, I thought, in that game. So the defense has been consistent throughout the season, and we've only seen Josh Allen and his, and that offense get better. So they are scary right now. And I mean, that was pretty much domination from the start from the Bills, and they are the AFC's best team and definitely one of the most feared teams in the NFL right now.
I mean,
yeah. Last thing I'll say is, primarily the issue on that defense was that secondary. It felt like there was a lot of passes where the receivers were completely behind the safeties, and sometimes it just felt like Josh Allen just threw it up. And like, where were the defensive backs? Where were the cornerbacks? Where were the safeties? Like, they were all everywhere but in front of the play. Like, I don't understand why Buffalo knew, hey, no matter what tonight, we're going to keep 2 safeties, high. We're going to keep 2 high safeties, and no matter what, Tyreek and Travis Kelce aren't going to get big plays tonight. And like, basically, we're going to contain Kansas City. Why didn't Kansas City they even had a long halftime to make that adjustment, to be like, hey, let's keep the 2 high safeties. Why, we can't be letting Knox get, 117 yards off of 3 receptions. Like, that's crazy that, like, he could amount that many yards off of 3 catches. I don't really understand what happened to this Kansas City defense. I really don't. Obviously this isn't necessarily a team I follow, religiously the way I follow like the Cowboys, but they are, the team I'm having an affair with, and I just don't fully understand what happened to the defense. I'm still trying to figure it out. Like, where did it go wrong?
Yeah, and especially someone like Sorensen, who the last couple seasons has been so key to that defense. This year, I mean, he's just been awful. He's been beat just about in every game. And there's that screenshot of Tyrann Mathieu, like, what are you doing? Just like with his arms out, and just about every loss they've had this season. So, I mean, that kind of speaks to how their defense has played. They've just been out of position. They've tried to, cover one-on-one, and it just hasn't worked. Like, man-to-man, it hasn't worked. I mean, teams have figured out a way to beat them. And also on the flip side of that, we've seen how defenses have covered that Chiefs offense. Those 2 deep safeties and keeping everything in front of them has kind of been the key to beating Patrick Mahomes in this offense. And Mahomes really hasn't run it as much as, I mean, he ran it 8 times in this game. That's not a whole lot. And he was their leading rusher. That's another thing too. He had 61 yards and he led the team in rushing. That's got to get better too. Even Patrick Mahomes needs a solid running game behind him, or at least an existent running game behind him if he's going to be successful. Every NFL quarterback needs a good running game for play action, and
unless you're Josh Allen, who was also the lead rusher for the Bills, and his runs were super effective.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I think there's a lot of issues with Kansas City on both sides of the ball. It's crazy to see it because, at the beginning of the season, I think we were all like, it's Kansas City and Buffalo in the AFC side. You could put Tennessee up there too. And I mean, Tennessee has kind of, been back and forth, up and down like a roller coaster.
They've been very inconsistent.
Yeah. And Kansas City just, I mean, in their 3 losses, they've kind of looked, I don't know. They've looked kind of tired, or maybe like a, Super Bowl. I'm not going to say Super Bowl hangover, but they
just kind of look bored also. Like, they look bored. It's just like, again, I think they're just a victim of their own success. And I think they just think that they can just turn it on. And that's just not how it's working right now. That defense is atrocious right now. That the offense, they invested so much in the offensive line. I think they kind of neglected the defense. And I don't think they really fully realized how much this defense was declining. Maybe it wasn't just the fact that there was no offensive line in that Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You know, maybe the defense
points
was
back to
also, an issue, but we pointed too much to the offensive line that now we see, hey, maybe the defense was also just not up to par anymore. I don't know.
They definitely weren't in that game. Brady definitely torched them in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And
so maybe I don't know.
Maybe they've been sort of, their confidence was shaken since that game, and maybe the defense really hasn't recovered, or I don't know. It's a strange thing. And also for Mahomes, I feel like he's not moving the pocket as much as he normally does. It seems like he's trying to make a lot of plays within the pocket, and sometimes it's costing him. And in a lot of cases.
The other thing is, a lot of teams are strategizing to that too, of trying to contain him in the pocket because they know how much damage he does getting out of the pocket.
It's smart. Yeah.
So that's the other thing.
I
totally agree.
I was very disappointed in Mahomes' performance. He threw 2 picks, got sacked twice, and you all mentioned about the offensive line invested in that. It just goes to show to me how good this Bills defense really did play. But I feel like if Patrick Mahomes would have made better decisions and not threw those 2 picks, that this game might be a little bit closer. I'm not saying that the Chiefs would have won, but from what I've seen, what I saw mainly in the first half, but still the Chiefs, there's no excuse. There's a lot that needs to be worked on both the offensive and defensive side of the football. But yet again, you have Andy Reid as your head coach. I feel like that he'll put something together, but I don't think the Chiefs can go too much longer before having to hit that panic button very hard and possibly multiple times.
Well, and another thing. Sorry.
Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I was just going to say another thing to keep in mind is this was a 31-20 game early in the fourth quarter. And Josh Allen throws an interception, and you think, okay, well, now the Chiefs are going to get back in the game. But Frank Clark got called for roughing the passer, and that was pretty much the moment when I think a lot of people were like, okay, the Bills kind of have this game now. They just have to protect the football. If that play stands and the Chiefs have the ball, we've seen the Chiefs make unreal comebacks. In the playoffs and in the regular season. So, if that interception stands, if Rashad Fenton's able to, secure that and there's not a penalty on that play, then Kansas City's likely going to come back or at least be close, because they're probably going to drive down on that succeeding drive. So that was a killer for them. And, penalties are also something as well. Like, they
were calling everything in that game. It was kind of annoying.
Yeah, the refs were working their arms, throwing that flag for sure. So, that was killer too. Especially that penalty specifically stands out to me because, like I said, Kansas City drives down the field and scores. It's a 4-point game. At that point, and all of a sudden they're right back in it. Midway through the fourth quarter, and we've seen what Kansas City can do. So. Now that defense, who knows if they could have held up? They haven't really been able to, but just something to keep in mind. So,
yep.
Yes.
So the Buffalo Bills defeat the Kansas City Chiefs 38-20 in that matchup. There's much more to come right here on the Kirby on Sports podcast. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll get Dan's thoughts on the Baltimore Ravens. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just tell you about Regroup Building Services. If you're looking to get your home remodeled, any part of your home, bathroom, kitchen, want to get a deck built, anything like that, Regroup Building Services can just about do everything. And take it from me, because they came in and they remodeled my family's kitchen, and they do a great job. So if you're looking for any sort of home remodeling needs, deck work done, anything of that nature, reach out to my guy Sean Hibbard over at Regroup Building Services today. You can check them out on their website, www.regroupbuildingservices.com, where they do the honeydews that your honey don't. Make sure you tell them Josh sent you. For sports fans living in condominium and homeowners associations, as well as business professionals, when you need a reserve study, PM Plus Reserves has been in business business since 1990. Their studies are accurate and easy to understand. Check them out when your association needs a study. www.pmplusreserves.com. You can also contact them at 703-803-8436. Once again, www.pmplusreserves.com. All right, welcome back to the Kirby on Sports podcast. I'm joined by the three-man booth, Dan Demski and the Swiss Army knife, Carlos Martinez. Let's get into the next game on our agenda. And this was a game that I woke back up to finish watching.
I didn't even watch it. I didn't watch it until later.
Dan, I'll give this to you, but here in a moment. But for the Colts to almost beat this Ravens team, I was like, really? The Colts? I really did not think the Colts were going to put up that much of a fight. And from what I watched, I just thought, man, I mean, Wentz is playing decent. He threw 2 touchdowns. I mean, you have a decent running game, but I mean, I'm like, this Ravens team is really going to lose to the Colts. I was thinking that when I went to bed. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm watching this game and I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to text Dan. We don't want to text Dan. But yeah, lo and behold, it goes into overtime. I'm not sure what the heck happened with Rodrigo Blankenship. Was he hurt?
He had a hip
injury.
So they had a rough night, field goal kicking wise. So anyways, that and they go into overtime. Credit to Calais for getting that blocked field goal. That was impressive. But that and you take the coin flip and Justin Tucker wants the football and Lamar Jackson does what he does best. But Dan, I will turn this over to you about the Colts and the Ravens. How much of a nervous wreck were you? Are you all right? How much sleep did you get?
Well,
none.
I'll start by saying that for most of this game, I was extremely disappointed, especially with the defense. That was pathetic to say the least. I mean, drive after drive after drive, Wentz was tearing us up. I don't know how many times they had wide open receivers on second down, third down. They just seemed to complete pass after pass after pass. And, when they jumped out to that huge lead, I never turned off the game, or I was actually driving for a good portion of it. So I think I came back just in time in the fourth quarter to watch that unreal comeback. But there for a while, it was Carson Wentz was just destroying our defense and really kind of made him look like a Hall of Fame quarterback there for 3 quarters. And I was just disappointed because I was like, really, this is the effort we have after all the hype that's been built up this week about our football team. This is supposed to be a game that we win by, I think we were 7.5 point favorites. So we're supposed to win by 1 or 2 possessions. What the hell's going on? Like, why are we playing this poorly? And then all of a sudden, the football gods decide they're going to cast some luck our way, and we get that blocked field goal, and that kind of...
Which was impressive. I got to say, Calais Campbell just... Oh, my God. How did he get up for that one?
I don't know. It wasn't the best blocking on that. If you watch that, he sort of busted free a little bit. But, yeah, that was a fantastic play, and... it pretty much sparked us. I mean, we had, 3 drives in a row really where Lamar just right down the field, he was having no problem picking apart their secondary, which they've had injuries as well. I mean, both teams, we have like 16 guys on IR. They have a bunch of guys on IR and a bunch of guys in their secondary injured. I mean, the Ravens do too. So it was kind of a game of what team was going to be able to show the most depth. And there for a while, the Colts were like, we're keeping the Ravens in check. And once the Ravens opened up passing and kind of let Lamar show people that, yes, he is a good passer, like we've seen it so many times, but that was just the moment where it was just one of those games where you just kind of sit back and with your mouth wide open, like, I can't believe what I'm seeing right now. When they made it an 8-point game, I was like, I just don't know if this defense can get another stop. And of course, they line up to kick the field goal. He misses it. It was like 47 yards, and it was right down the middle. But he's injured. Rodrigo Blankenship was injured, so it was just like, I was really nervous. But at that point, I was like, I had a feeling that we were going to go down and at least give us a chance to. Lamar was going to give us a chance to tie the game, just like he had. For, like I said, that was the third consecutive drive where he led us right down the field. And it was great to see Mark Andrews and Hollywood Brown, as well as they played, both those guys, 125 yards for Hollywood, 147 for Mark Andrews. I mean, I've been critical of them this season. They've had several games, including the Detroit game, where really both of them, dropped passes. Hollywood dropped a touchdown, and I think Mark Andrews did in that game as well. So they really stepped up huge for this football team, and they really were the main targets for Lamar on those touchdowns and in the 2-point conversions as well. We had to have 2 of those. Yeah, I was a nervous wreck. I got out just in time to watch us, to watch the missed kick and then us drive down and tie the game. At that point, and it was just a game of raw emotion. I mean, this team doesn't quit, and there are so many times over the years where football teams will just say, all right, there's no way we can come back from this. And you just kind of see that on the field. Like, I think the most surprising thing for me, as I just broke my pen, was that the Colts were so hell-bent on throwing the football, even after they built that huge lead. I figured they would run the ball more, but look, it was working. I mean, they were driving right down the field, and it just takes a couple lucky breaks sometimes for our defense to finally make a play or two. And Tavon Young, God, almost cost us the football game. He makes a tackle there on 2nd and long. It's going to be 3rd and 20 something, whatever it is. And he retaliates against Jack Doyle. And I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me.
I did not agree with that, because Jack Doyle did do something, but they
always get the second guy.
Yeah,
they always get the guy who retaliates.
Which I was very upset with. I was very upset that they did not see that Jack Doyle pushed his face. Obviously, he pushed him. I mean, at least it wasn't something worse, like a punch or something, but still pushed him and he got called. Yeah, I didn't agree with it though. Jack Doyle it shouldn't have happened.
Well, he might be fine for that. Who knows? But that at that point, when there was a 15-yard penalty, I said, they're in field goal range. Now the game's over. It's going to be 2-possession game. And, the football gods just were in the Ravens' favor. That's all I can say. And
a hurt hip.
Injured hip for a kicker is pretty bad. I mean, the whole mechanics of being a kicker is using that lower body. So
heck, half the league must have had hurt hips because of the amount of missed field goals.
This was a rough week for kickers.
Oh my
Extra
gosh.
points and just regular kicks. It was bad. So I mean, it was just Lamar was perfect. I mean, he had to be perfect in this game to lead us back, and it was the best game I've ever seen him play. And look, I know the Colts secondary is banged up. I know that they had guys out there who, wouldn't be out there regularly, but you can't deny what he was able to accomplish, regardless of what he was going up against. And I was talking to my brother after the game, and he said there's only like 2 or 3 other quarterbacks that could do what he did, and Mahomes is one of them. You could put Rodgers up there, Brady, and that's probably it. Right now in the NFL, maybe Russell Wilson, but he's kind of, right now, back and forth. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll tell you one thing just to wrap up my thoughts about this.
Sure.
With the amount of injuries the Ravens have had, with them being 4-1, I'm very impressed, because usually injuries will hold a team back, and they usually lose confidence. But I feel like this Ravens team is just not quitting. The term you just said, Dan. They are not quitting and they are not slowing down, and they're going to find a way to win with who they have, even if you have a bunch of guys on injured reserve.
Well, it goes to show you like the depth, not only that, but just how well they've drafted and how well they've, done a good job of signing guys they've needed. I mean, they brought in guys to play running back who, to be honest, haven't played in 2 or 3 years and longer, or at least at a consistent level, and they've turned them into pretty decent running backs. Now, it was a rough game for outside of Lamar. It was a rough day for running the ball, but I mean, they fell behind, so they really had no choice but to throw the football. So it was just Lamar was marvelous. I mean, 442 yards, only 6 incomplete passes, and the big thing, no interceptions. Obviously, he had the fumble, which at that point I really thought the game was over. So, that's really all I have. The defense has a ton of issues. I mean, there's a lot of stuff we have to address. We can't do this against the Chargers next week. We're going to have to play much better defensively. Herbert's going to throw for 350, 375 on our secondary. So I'm concerned about that right now. I think that's something you have to work this week in practice. Rashad Bateman may be coming back for his first game off injured reserve for the Ravens. He's practiced the last couple weeks, and that's just another weapon for Lamar. So I'm very excited to see how that pans out, and just to see how Lamar's played.
Yeah,
he's stepped up big time.
I think the refs might have saved the Ravens there, because that fumble on the goal line, how is that called a forward pass? I couldn't see it, but
it was close. I was
like, really?
I thought that was a clear fumble. I didn't think that was a forward pass under any circumstances, but it happened. I mean, I'm pretty sure. Oh man, somebody recently also got a call like that. That I was like, I'll take it. It is what it is. I mean, what is Lamar supposed to do? I mean, to be like, oh no, I fumbled it. No, dude, come on. I mean, the Ravens look good. I mean, at the end there, like I said, I didn't actually watch the game live, but it was I watched the uninterrupted ending on YouTube. What the heck is going on here? Sorry, guys. I'm distracted. My bad. No, but I saw an interesting stat from what's it called? Next Gen Stats on Twitter. Like, the Ravens had a 4% win probability with 6 minutes left in the game. Like, the fact that like the Colts had a 96% chance of winning that with 6 minutes left and they botched it is incredible to me. I mean, also, we're not even talking about the historical impact of this game in terms of don't forget the Colts, we're the original Baltimore team.
Yeah.
So it's it matters to the Ravens to beat the Colts.
There's a lot of emotions.
I feel like that gets lost a lot whenever these teams play, especially when they come to Baltimore. I feel like people don't really remember that anymore.
The older generation remembers. I mean,
they can't forget. What's his name? Art Modell, was that the previous owner of the Colts?
No, that was Irsay, Robert Irsay. Jim Irsay's father was the original owner.
Was it?
Yeah. Yep.
Huh.
You're thinking of the Browns.
No, I'm thinking of the Browns. You're right. I'm thinking of the Browns.
I'm thinking of the
Browns.
Mm-hmm.
The original Browns, which then came to Baltimore and became the Ravens and left the I mean, there's not a whole lot to really say. Obviously the Ravens scored 22 unanswered points at the end.
Mm-hmm.
The Colts were leading with 12 minutes left in the game, 25-9. And, I mean, the other interesting stat that they brought up in the broadcast were the Colts were 126-0, something like that, when leading by 16 points before this game.
Yep.
And Lamar just destroyed that, really. It was good to see Lamar play that way, man. Honestly, he's an exciting player. Like I said, when he's been severely underrated, coming up. He's won an MVP and everything. And And like the fact that people still doubt this man and still question his abilities. Like I understand he's not the crispest passer. He's not your typical quarterback, but the guy can play quarterback. He just plays it in his own way. And the fact that this Ravens team alone, with all the injuries that they've had, all the guys they have on IR, they could have easily just said, you know what, guys, it's just clear it's not our year. Yet here they are standing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, here they are standing 4-1, leading the division, and yeah, they didn't look good, but they found a way. It was the same thing when they, against the Chiefs, when they played the Chiefs, they stumbled at the beginning, but they found a way to win. And that's ultimately what has to happen in a lot of, team seasons. When, on your way to a Super Bowl, you just have to find a way to win, because in the NFL, a win is a win. It's not like college football where there's half wins and wins, so good job by the Ravens. The Colts, man, I mean, what a nightmare situation they are in right now with, thinking that all they needed to do was bring in Carson Wentz and they were going to be fine. They have a lot of injuries, obviously, in the secondary, but also Carson Wentz just hasn't, he started this game out. He played 3 good quarters, I guess, and then disappeared in the fourth, the Colts were expected to contend for this division, and albeit they're still in it because the Titans have been so inconsistent. But ultimately, I don't see this team winning a Super Bowl this year or contending for that. It'll be interesting to see where they go from here. But not a whole lot else I have left to say. But good job for the Ravens. And Dan, I hope that you'll be able to make it through next week, considering we'll be a little distracted at another game. But
honestly, I don't expect them to win. So if they don't, I'm not going to be that upset.
I thought it was funny though, because Carlos was like, Dan, I just watched that game, and we got his late reaction. But I'm glad you got it was. I'm glad you got a chance to watch it, Carlos, because it was a great game to watch.
The only reason I stayed up to watch the Chiefs game is because I didn't have to work the next day. That game didn't end until like 1 a.m. If I had to work, there's no way I would have watched that. So, Carlos, I watched your Chiefs for you, so you're welcome.
Same. I watched that whole game because I didn't have to, because obviously I'm on vacation right now. So
there you go.
But I'm still here, still grinding for this podcast.
That illegal forward pass, I'm watching it again here. It's extremely close. I mean, it looks more like a
it looks
sideways
like a
lateral.
It looks like a fumble to me. But
I mean, it was no. The fumble stood. The fumble stood. It was the return when they tried to lateral.
Oh yeah. The return of the fumble. They called that.
They scored 2 plays later anyway. I mean, it took them 2 plays, and it was 23 to 3 at that point. I'm pretty sure.
Well, I guess it wasn't.
That's when I knew it was over.
Then
you mean 22? It was 22 to 3.
Well, yeah. It was 16.
It
was 16 when they got the ball back, and so then it was 23.
Because then they missed the extra point after that.
Oh, true.
Yeah. And then they scored the field goal.
They had a rough night kicking for sure. Of course, when you have an injured
everybody
kicker,
had a rough night kicking.
Yeah, for sure.
It was brutal.
Yeah, the Ravens, they'll be fine. I mean, I'm very happy. I didn't expect, with all the injuries and the issues they've had on defense, for them to be where they sit currently. Next week's the toughest game of the season by far. I'd even put that above the Chiefs. It's going to be a tough game, and it helps us that it's at home. I think that's huge for us, but the way that Herbert and that offense have played, it's going to be a tough ask. But Lamar gives us a chance in every game. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree. So moving on to the next game from a Ravens overtime win over the Colts, I would start off by reading a tweet from ESPN Stats and Info on Twitter. The Browns scored 42 points, had 532 yards with 0 turnovers. They are the first team in NFL history, including the playoffs, to lose when having either 40 points and 0 turnovers or 40 points, 500 yards and 0 turnovers. This Chargers versus Browns game, I think the definition of that game was a straight shootout.
Mm-hmm.
It was insane. And I thought the Browns were just going to keep on the gas pedal. I mean, yeah, I tuned in, back and forth red zone stuff, but I was like, man, the Browns are looking very, very good. And Justin Herbert, this solidifies his campaign for MVP this year, coming back from this game, looking at his stats, 26 for 43, 398 yards and 4 touchdowns. This game on both sides of the football was incredible. And I just think Justin Herbert was ready to take this team and beat the Browns, and that's what they did. But all around, I think this game was pretty incredible, high scoring, and what a great game to watch.
Yeah, and don't forget Herbert also had a rushing touchdown too. So he had 5 total touchdowns. Just a crazy, crazy game for him. And yeah, he's definitely in the MVP conversation. There's no question about that. I think for the Browns, I mean, they dominated on the ground. I mean, the Chargers have one of the worst rushing defenses in the NFL. The Browns came into this game knowing that, and Chubb and Kareem Hunt just went absolutely crazy. Chubb finished with 161 yards and a touchdown, and then, of course, Kareem Hunt, 61 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that was the main source of the Browns' offense. I thought Baker played really well. He just didn't make enough plays, and I think there at the end of the game, Baker has a chance to go down there and give the Browns the lead and put essentially the win at that point, and he doesn't come up clutch for them. So I was a little disappointed. Well, not disappointed because I don't like the Browns, but I was surprised that Baker didn't come through clutch, and I kind of felt like he would against this defense. But what can you say about the Chargers offense that hasn't been said before? I mean, Herbert has
good.
Played out of his mind.
They're incredible. Absolutely incredible. And this solidifies his MVP candidacy that much more.
It doesn't solidify it, but it puts
he's definitely
him in the
top
conversation.
3. He's definitely top 3 right now as far as if you put
it's too early to say something solidifies somebody in the MVP conversation.
Right.
We're only 5 weeks into the season. So all this whole MVP talk, they're pointless right now because like last year, Kyler Murray and like Russell Wilson were like MVP candidates like the first half of the season, and then they disappeared.
Look at Russell Wilson with a middle finger torn or whatever,
broken, I think. But yeah, he's fine. Mike Williams, 165 yards receiving. You can't get those numbers on rookie mode. I don't think on Madden.
Mike Williams on a fantasy team is looking pretty hot this year.
If you have any Chargers receiver, you have Keenan Allen, him. Eckler's been fantastic receiving as well. He's been one of their big targets out of the backfield. So the thing I like about Herbert is just how much he spreads the ball around. Now in this game, Mike Williams really did. He racked in the most yards. Of course, he had that 72-yarder that helped add to those totals. But he really does a good job of spreading the ball around, letting everybody sort of touch the football. And this game was really just which defense would make one stop late in the game, and it ended up being the Chargers defense. It was more like a Big 12 football game, like Texas OU over the weekend, where it was like just points on points. Just ridiculous.
That was crazy.
By the way, that was a crazy football game. Yeah, that was
absolutely nuts.
Every time Texas is back, then they just show you in the next 2 quarters that they're definitely not back and ever back.
I guess Oklahoma has a problem with media availability because of their performance or whatnot.
No. What happened was apparently one of the student reporters for like the school newspaper was like on like some building close to the practice facility and like was watching the practice through binoculars or something like that and noticed that and was like reported that way that Caleb whatever Williams, I think is his name, was taking a majority of the first team snaps and like was reporting on the like quarterback competition they're kind of having right now. And Lincoln Riley didn't like that. So he was like, you know what, for the next week, I'm canceling all media events. So yeah.
College is
totally completely off topic what we're saying, but that OU Texas game was crazy.
I just want to say to this real quick, like college football, it is very closed off. Like it's not like the NFL where you have media people who can go and watch practice and talk to the coaches and talk to the training staff. No. College, they don't want you anywhere near their practice facility. They don't want you to see what's going on. You just have to kind of wait till there's any sort of open media sort of thing. And it's kind of secretive in a way. So I'll just say that. So yeah, the fact that he was watching practice through binoculars is just insane to me. But yeah, back to this game. Like I said, it was like there was no resistance at all defensively for either of these teams. It was both teams are right down the field, and like I said, the Browns just ran the football like crazy and had a ton of success doing that. Baker played well too, but he didn't have to do a whole lot because, Nick Chubb, 21 carries. I mean, he was a workhorse, and Kareem Hunt had 12. So really, really fun game. Herbert's, he's in the MVP conversation. He's definitely up there. For me, he's a top 3 MVP candidate right now. And this was just a really fun game and could definitely be a playoff preview for what we could see later this year.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Chargers, are proving yet again, man, they're legit. Honestly, like being completely honest, the only reason why the Cowboys beat them was because of penalties. That were self-inflicted penalties by the Chargers. Dallas, Los Angeles lost that game more than Dallas won it. But I'm still going to take that win to the bank. We still beat the Chargers.
Absolutely.
Screw you, Dante. What's it called? But yeah, he Justin Herbert, man, just is incredible. He's just really good. It just feels like, he just makes the right passes when he needs to. And
so
Keenan Allen. Yeah, Keenan Allen and the other wide receiver is Mike Williams, right?
Yep,
Mike Williams, they are just so good at getting open. It feels like no matter what, they are open. And Eckler is also running very well. Like I said, that offense is playing very well. It's the Cleveland defense is what surprised me in this game, because overall the Cleveland defense has been playing very well leading up to this game, and then they just kind of disappeared. Justin Herbert was throwing all over them, and they couldn't stop it. And obviously, like you said, it kind of came down to the last play, or not the last play, but it came down to who could make a defensive stop to win this game, and ultimately it was the Chargers who did. The other thing is another praise I want to give to the Chargers is they were down by 2 scores at one point, and they didn't give up, when in most cases this team has been known to kind of give up at that point. Yeah. They're not known for this type of ferocious comeback, but Cleveland, running wise, they did pretty well. Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb are very good. And I think that they need to ride that, especially because Baker's hurt. Obviously he's got that partially torn labrum, I think it is, in his left shoulder. Because of that, they need to they're going to have to use that running game a lot more. And I think that they can. I think they can ride that running game into more wins here. And where was Odell in this game? Did Odell actually show up?
I'm not sure what happened with him.
Where is Odell?
Ever since
only 2 receptions.
I've made my opinion about Odell clear before. I just feel like he had some really good seasons with the Giants, and he turned that into, his huge contract with the Browns. And he hasn't lived up to it. He hasn't lived up to a quarter of his contract. In my opinion, he's either been hurt or he's nowhere to be found. And this game is another example. He didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating because we know how good he can be. We know how good he was his first few years in the NFL with the Giants. And let's be honest, he didn't have the greatest quarterback geez.
Yeah, well, he had Eli Manning, at the tail end of his career, but I agree, Dan, even yeah, you can be oh yeah, he was injured, but even before his injury, it's not like he was putting up crazy numbers for the Browns. He really wasn't. Right. And as a matter of fact, the Browns played better without Odell Beckham. They
won. Yeah, they won too.
And they won. They won a lot more without. So it's just do the Browns really need? I know they need Jarvis Landry back because Jarvis
Oh,
Landry feels like the heart and soul
He's
of
their number
that
one receiver.
receiving core.
Yeah.
But when it comes to Odell, like, what is he really contributing to this franchise? I don't know anymore.
He's not. He's not. I think that's the bottom line. And I don't know his contract situation, but I imagine he probably has 1 or 2 more years left on that deal. I have to check.
Do you guys think Cleveland might trade him at some point?
I think so.
If his production doesn't step up,
if he gets worse, if he plays even worse, they might not even see. I hate to say they wouldn't get anything for him, but maybe in their minds his trade value is a lot higher than what they might be offered or what they might get. So they might have to just cut bait at that point. I think they could get some decent offers for him, obviously, especially if you're talking about like draft capital and things like that. But I don't know. I definitely think it could happen. I mean, he hasn't made a difference there.
I think it could too, but you have to question what the trade value really is, because I can't really say for sure what teams might offer up for him, but
that's what I mean. Is like you're going to have teams that are looking for any receiver, right? I mean, there's some teams out there that don't have anybody.
Kansas City.
Yeah. Well, Kansas City's got Tyreek Hill. That's good enough.
Well, what I'm saying is, what are the odds that Kansas City gets Odell back? What if Kansas City got Odell Beckham Jr.? Then I think we're back in business.
I don't know about that. I don't know.
I don't know.
I think he would probably go to a lesser team, honestly. At this point, just because, just from what we've seen. But Carlos, you talked about that Browns defense and how they played the last 3 weeks because they were on a 3-game winning streak. But you got to consider who they were going up against. I mean, they went up against a Houston team which had Davis Mills, hasn't been good this season.
He looked good against Patriots, but
they beat Chicago. Well, they did look good against the Patriots. I'll give them that, but
yeah, he looked good against Patriots.
Then they had Chicago, so you have a inexperienced quarterback, no offensive line, nobody to really throw the ball to. That was a good win. And then that stinker last week against the Vikings, which was just the most boring football game I think anybody has ever seen. Captain Kirk was Captain Awful, which he normally is until garbage time. So yeah, I mean those were their 3 wins in a row. So not the best competition. The Browns are an interesting team for me because we know how good they can be when they're clicking on all cylinders. We saw how good that offense was, especially running the football. I mean, they're very, very tough to beat, but that defense is suspicious when they have to go up against better offenses, better competition. So I think they're going to have a great season, but I don't know if they're going to win this division, especially with how the Ravens have played, and the Ravens are now starting to get healthy. We saw how Pittsburgh played over the weekend. Pittsburgh's not out of it either. In my estimation.
They're out of it in my estimation. I don't think they're. They just lost Juju
I never count Pittsburgh out, man.
I'm counting Pittsburgh out. Come on, Ben Roethlisberger's. He'll have that one anomaly game where he's actually good, but the dude's washed.
We'll see. I don't count them completely out. I don't think they make the playoffs, but I think they could wreak havoc with other teams as far as upsetting some much better football teams. That's just my opinion, but. It's definitely the Browns and the Ravens are definitely duking it out for the top of the division. I'm not going to argue that. I just think with the Ravens getting healthier and where they sit right now, the Browns are kind of up and down, to be honest. They've had some stinkers and tough loss week 1 against Kansas City. I think if they win that game, I'm more confident in this football team, but they have Arizona. Yeah. They have Arizona this weekend, and we're really going to see where they are with that football game. And that's a home game as well. So, we'll see. I just talked for 25 minutes about nothing, but yeah, I'm good.
I got nothing else.
The Chargers 47 and the Browns 42. There's more to come. with Dan Demski and Carlos Martinez. You're listening to the Kirby on Sports podcast. Is it finally time to upgrade your home's interior? How about with an authentic farm table made locally from recycled barnwood? Shenandoah Primitives, based right here in Winchester, Virginia, makes farm tables, benches, tables, coffee tables, and a long list of other items for your home decorating needs. At Shenandoah Primitives, function and style are combined for great furniture that will last generations. If you're interested in combining the industrial look of metal with wood, or considering something incredibly unique with a live edge, Shenandoah Primitives turns those ideas into reality. Thinking about a mirror, wine rack, or other accent piece for your home, Shenandoah Primitives can assist with that as well. As a local small business, Shenandoah Primitives is happy to work with each client for a custom design or schedule an appointment to come out and view current inventory. Local, high-quality, handmade items can be found at Shenandoah Primitives. Find us on Facebook and Instagram or visit us at www.shenandoahprimitives.com. Once again, that's www.shenandoahprimitives.com.
Hey, sports fans. Thank you for listening to and supporting the Kirby on Sports podcast with founder and host Josh Kirby, along with lead contributor Dan Demski. Like, subscribe, and give them a 5-star rating wherever you get your podcast from. My name is Dr. Dave Miles, founder of Dr. Dave Leadership Corporation. Our company helps leaders build engaged and productive teams. Exclusively for listeners of the Kirby on Sports podcast, you can take an opportunity to discover your primary communication style and learn more about effective communication with others. Text Kirby to 757-903-0743 for your free copy of the Working From Home Communication Assessment, where you'll learn your primary communication style, how to better communicate with others not like you, and tips on working remotely based on your personal communication style. 10 minutes, tons of resources, learn about yourself and your team. Again, text Kirby to 757-903-0743 for your free assessment report today. I'm Dr. Dave Miles, founder of Dr. Dave Leadership Corporation, where we help you and your team be more engaged and productive by understanding each other better. Back to you, Josh.
All right. Welcome back to the Kirby on Sports podcast. I'm joined in the 3-man booth by Dan Demski and the Swiss Army knife, Carlos Martinez. We have
Taysom Hill. Oh, sorry.
No, Taysom Hill's out with a concussion.
Yes,
he's
out
bad.
with a concussion. Yep.
Overrated.
I saw that. Yeah. So
what you're saying, Dan, is I'm overrated? Wow.
No.
I see where we
Taysom
stand,
Hill
bro.
is. That's
You
why
know
I'm
what?
saying
No,
you should have the title and not Taysom Hill. You see what I mean?
It's okay, Dan. You've made your thoughts known now. It's okay. I know where we stand.
talking about you, Carlos.
Oh my gosh. Gentlemen, let's get back on track. There was a very big incident that occurred during halftime of Monday Night Football. Obviously this situation is still developing as we are recording, and for stuff like this, I mean, really, I don't like to speculate on what could happen, what could not happen as a result of this. I like to give the facts. I like here on the podcast, I like to give the facts and what our thoughts are, because stuff like this, you really have to tread lightly. And I mean, as much as I don't really want to cover this, I feel like we need to give this topic a little bit of attention. Jon Gruden, obviously, email surfaced from years and years ago, starting off with remarks that are unacceptable, in my opinion, made to NFLPA director DeMaurice Smith. And for this, I feel like still he was still employed at this current moment. And then more emails came out, and it ended up the teams mutually agreed to part ways. He turned his resignation in on Monday. Monday night halftime of the Ravens Colts game. So, I mean, a lot of stuff developing. It looks like that whatever transpired here has some correlation with the Washington football team. Still developing, but
Some.
Well, I mean, come on.
It's directly involved with the Washington football team.
Yeah, that's how this whole thing came out, because it's directly involved to the investigation.
Well, yeah,
That's how they found the emails. Yeah.
Yes, correct. But still, it's still developing. So the facts only, but I'd like.
I mean,
to
that's factual. That's factual. That's not speculation.
Yeah.
What we just said was factual.
Yeah.
You know.
So, I mean, obviously, first and foremost, if there's something like this, when is Washington not involved? I think Washington might be. A lot of people have said this. There's a dark black storm cloud over top of Ashburn.
Yeah. And it's going to stay that way until Daniel Snyder sells the team and they completely get rid of every person who worked there back then. That's really what this is all going to have to. There's got to be accountability from him, especially because, look, the emails that were sent, the second set of emails that were found were to then Washington Redskins general manager Bruce Allen. It was a back and forth. Terrible. Both of them had said terrible things in those emails. So that's how they found that second set of emails. It seems to me, and you know, that sort of, if you're comfortable saying that in an email, and I'm talking about Gruden and Bruce Allen, that seems to be like they both worked in environments where that sort of thing was either acceptable or that was how people normally talk. Now, of course, Jon Gruden was employed by ESPN at the time, so he was indirectly involved with the National Football League. He was out of coaching for 2 years, obviously working Monday Night Football and doing other things for ESPN at the time. And obviously, we know Bruce Allen was the general manager who last year was a part of the original clean house initiative that Washington had, where they decided to, you know, cut bait for those folks who were involved with that, especially that cheerleading scandal that they had there. So,
which also directly came into these emails also.
Yeah, there was a topless photo shared between the two guys. There's
no place for it. There's absolutely no place for it. I mean,
to think that's right or to think that's acceptable in any stretch of the imagination, especially when you're a grown person. You know, it's one thing if someone's a kid or they're a teenager in their own social media doing stupid stuff, you sort of forgive them because, look, we were all stupid. We were all dumb 10 years ago. We didn't understand how the world worked. We didn't understand standards, things like that. Once you're in the professional world, you understand, like, look, none of this stuff is acceptable. And like I said, the fact that he was a grown man doing this, to me, it's just shocking. And I think, you know, I hate to speculate, but it kind of makes you wonder, like, how much of this goes on in the NFL, like behind closed doors, how much more of these comments are shared, you know, between people in conversation or in any other form of electronic communication. So I think that's what my thought is right now is, of course, thinking about the Washington football team and how that's going to affect that investigation, because that's ongoing. And as you know, they've reported, they're not going to release any of the emails currently with that, or
after the NFLPA tried to get them to, and people are now trying to get the sponsors of the Washington football team to pressure them to release the emails.
Well, that's how they got the name changed, you know. So it was a similar function there where they got FedEx and several other major sponsors to, obviously FedEx sponsors the stadium. So
they got Nike to stop selling their jersey and merchandise on their websites.
So that could be what it takes. But look, to conclude what I'm saying, there needs to be accountability across the board. Obviously, Jon Gruden, he doesn't have any place in football, broadcasting, any of that stuff. He won't
get another job. I don't think he will ever get another job after those emails leaked. I mean, who in their right mind would type that stuff? I mean, you might get mad at me for saying this, but Booger McFarland had some pretty good points on this issues. He was on
I heard what
with
he said.
he was on with
I
Gray and
did it.
Danny on the
I missed
fan.
that.
He was on Monday Night Football. He was talking about this. He was talking about how the league was making strides to be better with the initiatives on the back of the helmets, the stop hate, the other stuff. I mean, some people might not agree, but I think the league was making strides to build a better league, to stop hate, to stop all this from happening, and for these emails to come out when they did. I mean, I know this was like 10, 11 years ago, but still, Jon Gruden said that. I don't care if it was in a private email. They came to light for somebody to see, and it's now in the public eye, and it's unacceptable. It's absolutely unacceptable.
And I'll just finish by saying, like, there is a high chance that he may not feel that exact same way or as strongly as he felt back then about those issues. But he was talking about the protesting and things like that. Obviously, we're not going to get too deep into politics, but that's what the NFL has sort of embraced, this, like you said, this inspiration sort of initiative where, they've embraced the sort of social justice aspect where players have a right to sort of have that stance. And you're exactly right. I mean, Jon Gruden, it's extremely unacceptable is an understatement. And they made the right move. And Mark Davis was going to fire Jon Gruden either way. And Jon Gruden made the decision to resign, which made it a lot more easier on them as a football team. But that's another thing too. Like, this is really going to affect the Raiders moving forward. I mean, people may think it doesn't, but the rest of the season, I mean, we saw how they played this past Sunday. Obviously, it doesn't really have anything to do with this investigation, but they really didn't play well at all in their football game. How is this going to affect them moving forward? I think that's one interesting thing that we'll watch out for is emotionally and mentally. How does it affect that football team?
Yeah, I mean,
especially considering that you have the first openly gay player on that team, on the Raiders. It's just it's very sad that these types of conversations probably do happen a lot more often behind closed doors in the NFL. It's like you said, Dan, because we talked about it. It's still the good old boys club. It's a bunch of old, let's face it, white men who are who are in their like 70s and 80s who necessarily don't see the world that our generation sees.
Right.
Right. And that's where things really need to change in terms of the view of the league or the way these owners view things. But that's not going to happen until a younger generation starts to kind of come in and take over. Another thing I'll point out is to Dan's point about how this is going to affect the Raiders. They were banking. They signed Gruden to a 10-year deal. They're 3-4 years into this process that they were trying to do or whatever, and now it's abruptly ending because, of course, it has to. I do think that the Raiders are going to suffer this season because now Gruden's gone. I'm pretty sure other people are going to be gone too. That maybe are going to be kind of attached to what Gruden has said.
That's a good point.
And then on Washington's front, like I said, Bruce Allen's a scumbag. Like, he truly is a scumbag.
Right.
I don't think he even did a thing to help the organization.
He did it. He did it. Yeah. I mean, in his tenure as general manager / team president, what did Washington really accomplish?
Terrible.
Nothing.
Team.
And now look at the state that the franchise is in because of it. I mean, I don't know. Like so, we don't want to speculate too much about what's going to come out in those emails. But from what has come out, it has clearly. What I'm afraid of, this is just the tip of the iceberg, and we're about to find out a whole lot more worse stuff was said in those emails, which is ultimately going to look bad for the league, but could be the way that we get Dan Snyder out of the league. I agree with Dan. I think ultimately Dan Snyder needs to be held accountable because this is his franchise. You know, he's supposed to make sure that it's a safe work environment, that that it's not as hostile as it was,
Right.
previously. And he just needs to be held accountable, whether that means he has to eventually sell the team, which is what every football fan in America is hoping for, in my opinion. But somehow I feel like he's going to get away with it and he's going to get a slap on the wrist. But, that's just my opinion. It's just the things that came out were disgusting and no place for it in football anymore. Ever. It should have never been in football,
Right.
And especially now, in today's day and age, like there's no place for it, the NFL is trying to make strides. Like you guys have said, they're trying to make strides to really be more inclusive and listen to people's experiences and problems where, and we can't have the leaders of, these football teams not understand that because, and the other thing that's crazy to me is considering that, because like I always like to bring up, Pat McAfee likes to talk about the fact that the locker room is a place where you get people from all different types of backgrounds. So it's not as if Gruden hasn't been exposed to, all these different walks of life before. So I just don't understand why he had such a terrible, reaction to certain events. Like as a head football coach, you should know more than anybody, what the experiences of different groups of people are, because you deal with those people every day. So it was disgusting what Gruden said, and to top it off, Bruce Allen's a scumbag, and I think it's going to get worse, to be honest.
Yeah, and another thing too. I mean, Gruden was in 2011. I mean, he had been involved with the NFL for like 20 some years. I mean, he'd been a coach, an assistant coach or on an NFL coaching staff since like the 90s. So it's not like he hadn't experienced that diversity across the NFL as far as, like Carlos said, guys from different backgrounds, different stories, everything you can think of. And yeah, as far as Washington, I mean, hopefully this is a turn of the tide as far as professional sports in general, but especially the NFL, where they tend to always try to protect the owners when they do something erroneous or they are a part of something like this. I just hope this is more of, I mean, I know I mentioned in the group chat, the NBA has really become more of a players league as it should be, where, if we saw what happened with, who was it? Donald Sterling, I believe, the owner of the Clippers.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I remember that.
We remember those comments he made, and he was gone immediately. So, obviously, a proper investigation has to happen. We have to know exactly what happened between. Well, really, these emails with Gruden go back to 2010, and go all the way up until he took the job with the Raiders. So, it's a lot to look through, and I just hope there's accountability and justice. Justice is served in this situation.
One more thing before I guess Kirby gives his final thoughts is the other thing is during that time that Gruden was on Monday Night Football, he was with Mike Tirico, who obviously is a black man, and but that's the other thing. It's like it's not as if he was sheltered. So why did he have such a horrible reaction to certain events?
Yeah, totally.
I don't know. Like I said, it's just disgusting what was said.
It's sad.
And,
it's very sad.
Yeah, and I'm glad that
there's
he's
no
out of
place
the league
for
now. Yeah, I'm glad he's out of the league now, and and I hope he never gets another job in the NFL.
Yeah,
Totally
I'll tell you one thing. If I ever see Jon Gruden, mark my words, Dan and Carlos, if I ever see Jon Gruden coach for another team in any capacity or get another broadcasting job, this podcast will not be covering NFL. I guarantee you that, because there's no place for any of it. whatsoever. I'd like to touch on one more thing, the Beth Wilkinson report, how that was not released at all by the Washington football team. It was a verbal oral report. And this somehow ties in with those emails. I assume, I don't know, in direct correlation. I don't want to speculate. But once again, Grant and Danny on 106.7 The Fan, I'm not going to say this word for word, but they paraphrase Tom Brady in deflating the footballs. That was like 250-page report. You have Richie Incognito in the bullying situation, if you remember that. Yes. That was a thorough report. You have two of those, and then you go to the Washington football team, and it's an oral report. And Jay Gruden, John's brother, is on a weekly hit with Russell Medhurst on the Team 980. And Jay Gruden said he was not interviewed at all by Beth Wilkinson. I heard that. And that leads you to believe how authentic this investigation really was. And that's not just me. A lot of other people are saying that as well. So it's one big messed up situation, and Carlos might have said it right. This might just be the tip of the iceberg for the NFL, and who knows what is to come. Who knows?
Totally agree.
I mean, I'm not sure what to think about this, but I mean, Booger said it best. They were making strides in the National Football League to be better. And Jon Gruden just set them back because, I mean, what was said in those emails should never have been said, period. I mean, private or not, Booger said, if you want something to stay in the dark, expect that something that you keep in the dark, it will come into light one day. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing, but still, I mean, private or not, it came out, and it just has to stop. It has to change. So other than that, let's get back to football. Let's get back to everything, but pretty much just wanted to get our thoughts on that, because obviously it is a big story that was happening in the NFL. So other than that, it is time for the hurry up offense. We are going to change the hurry up offense up with the team. We are the game we are talking about, and we all give 1 point each.
Works for me.
Yep.
That's why it's called hurry up.
That's how it should have been, but we kind of strayed from that.
Yeah. So we strangled away from that, but we're not going to do it anymore. Gentlemen, are we ready for the hurry up offense?
Yeah.
All right.
You guys ready for the play call?
All right.
Good.
All right. Ready? So it's Brown right pistol, 59 razor on three. Ready? Break. God
right.
Damn it, Kirby. You fucked it up.
Oh, who cares? Okay. Thanks for that.
I do.
Okay, let's get to the hurry up offense. We don't have time for all of this. So
Jesus.
Loves me. This I know.
Okay. Yeah, you're going to make me laugh.
Compose ourselves. Let's do it.
Okay. Thursday night football. The Rams and Seahawks, and Russell Wilson goes out with a middle finger injury. Lo and behold, Geno Smith.
Yeah.
Who would have ever thought Geno Smith would try to take this team to victory against the Rams? Obviously, it didn't work.
Who knew he was in the league? I certainly didn't. Man. I'll just say, the Seahawks are in trouble. I mean, that's my summary.
Agreed.
I mean, we knew how well we know how good the Rams are, but the Seahawks are in deep trouble at this point.
Yeah, the Seahawks are in trouble, but the Rams are. They're going to be all right, I think. I think after suffering that loss to Arizona, I think that they've rebounded pretty well. So, Seahawks are in trouble, because Russell Wilson's going to be out for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Next game, Saints over Washington, 33-22. The Saints had a lot of
Sorry.
The Saints had a lot of issues. Started off with an early pick from Jameis, a lot of penalties, a running into the punter. Washington, they can try to win the game by converting off those mistakes from the Saints. Does not work. Taylor Heineke, it just goes to show how young he is and how much more experience he needs. Because, I mean, he threw 2 errant interceptions that just shouldn't have been there. And it was just a bad loss, 33-22 Saints over Washington.
That Hail Mary to end the half was the most Washington thing I've ever seen. How do you give that up? That made me so angry, and I'm not even a Washington fan. I was like, you got to be kidding me, bro. How do you?
Yeah.
That's when the tide changed in that game. I mean, it had been a really slow start for the Saints until then, and then they started to kick it in. So, yeah, I mean, what can you say? I mean, the Saints are hit or miss. You know, I've said this before, but you really don't know what kind of Jameis Winston you're going to get game to game, and he finished pretty strong, but definitely didn't start well. So, I got nothing to say about Washington. We've established enough about how they tend to play, especially defensively.
Yeah, Washington's not in good shape right now. And New Orleans is experiencing what the Jameis Winston show is like. It's very up and down. It's very consistent, but ultimately they're going to find a way to win. And Washington, yeah, like we said, they're in trouble, but we already knew they weren't going to win the division, especially the way Dallas is looking.
Yeah.
Early morning football in London as the Falcons.
I'm sorry they had to see that.
27-20. I did wake up early and watch that game, Carlos. So thank you for that. 27-20. The Eagles over the Panthers, 21-18. Sam Darnold with 3 interceptions. This did not look like the Carolina Panthers we've seen in past weeks.
Sam Darnold is back, and that's not good. Yeah, he played pretty poorly, and the Eagles didn't play great either, but they made just enough plays to win this game. They were just able to eke this one out. So, yeah.
Yeah, that was very surprising that Philly won this game. I did not see. I thought Carolina was going to win, but clearly, again, it shows that just because a team starts out the season undefeated doesn't mean they're actually a good team. And I think that ultimately Carolina is a middle of the road team, but we'll see what happens.
They haven't really beaten anybody, so
no. So, yeah, I mean, that's it. That's all I got to say. Congrats to the Eagles for winning another game.
All right. Packers Bengals. How many field goals do you have to miss?
This made me
How many
so angry.
Oh God.
How many field goals do you have to miss in order to finally make one to win the game?
Pathetic.
Oh, man.
If there was a world record for amount of misses in a game, I think this game tops it. Especially in overtime.
Mason Crosby missed 3. Missed 3 game-winning field goals. It's Mason Crosby. I mean,
did you see McPherson hit the flag on top of the goalpost?
Yeah, he thought he made it.
Yeah,
my dad called him an idiot. It was funny.
That was wild. That
was crazy. One of those just in general wacky games where you have this game where the Packers should have handily won this football game on paper, but the Bengals stayed in it. You got to give them credit. Joe Burrow got injured again and had to actually go to the hospital. I don't know if you guys heard about this. Had a throat contusion, which I didn't know.
He's on voice rest. He's on voice rest right now. He's expected to play, though. He's expected to play on Sunday.
It's so sad how bad that offensive line is.
Who's going to make the snap count if he can't talk?
They'll just do quick.
They're just going to do a silent count.
Silent count, yeah. That's I don't have much to say. I mean, I expected the Packers to come in there and really beat the Bengals handily, but both teams just didn't want to win it, and which is apparent by the kicking that we saw.
Eventually a kicker had to make it, but yeah I agree. I thought Green Bay was going to go in there and completely wash them, but hey, man, Cincinnati, they're a scrappy team. They're a very scrappy team. It's just that offensive line is eventually going to. The fact that they have a bad offensive line is going to catch up to them because I see Joe Burrow's getting hurt already. And like I said, albeit Jamar Chase is an exciting player, yes, it was still the wrong pick because ultimately Joe Burrow is going to keep getting injured and is going to probably go the way of Andrew Luck if this continues, where he's going to retire early.
All right,
Good
the
point.
next game, Patriots over the Texans, but Davis Mills shows signs of brightness, but yeah, I mean, still the
Brightness.
Texans are the Texans.
Is the curse of Tyrod Taylor rearing its head?
I
Is
think
it?
I think it could. I think it could. They'd be winning more games, I think, with him, but that's just my opinion.
I don't think so. I think ultimately the Texans are the Texans, and I don't think that they're a very good team, honestly, because of the way they've been run. Obviously the Cowboys are going to play the Patriots next, so it's good to see that they struggled against the Texans because I'm just like, now I got this like sense of hope, like, hey, we're going to go and then we're finally going to beat Belichick. But, Mac Jones pulled it out at the end, so good on him.
All right. The Titans over the Jaguars, 37-19.
You can skip this one too. I mean,
I can mention
the Jags are a
one
bad
thing.
football team.
I can mention one thing.
Worst team in football.
I can mention one
Here we
thing
go.
with I mean, all the memes are coming out. I mean,
Don't.
all of this
He's gonna do it.
took off the spotlight of what Urban Meyer did, which is still unacceptable. But I saw those memes and I was like, yep, that's pretty much true.
But I mean, Urban Myers, when you really look at it in the grand scheme of things, was it really that bad? I mean, what happened? He went to a bar and a girl was dancing on him, albeit he was married. But I mean, him and his wife are gonna have conversations about that. So like, yeah, that's a scumbag move there. But I mean, like when you really think about it, like is like compared to like the Jon Gruden stuff, like that makes him look like a fucking saint.
Yeah, but
I don't like that it does too. I don't like that it does.
I mean, the optics involved. I mean, the Jags hadn't won a football game. They really had no reason to, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying he can't celebrate, he can't like have a good time or whatever, but yeah, you got to be aware you got to be aware of the situation at that point. If it's at the end of the season and you made the playoffs or whatever, okay, you can celebrate how good of a regular season you had, but come on, dude, it's just bad. Yeah. But yeah, the Titans are starting to turn a corner now, and I think this was a crucial blowout they needed to, in my opinion, get them back sort of in, that sort of playoff chase. So,
all right, the next game, can the Lions ever catch a break? It seems like they're just losing off game-winning field goals every week.
I feel so bad for Lions fans, man. They are suffering.
How many moves has the Lions bidden on their way back?
Yeah, that joke is washed out already. Let's focus on the fact that MCDC, Motor City Dan Campbell was crying in that press conference. I mean, honestly, I kind of liked it because it kind of shows that the guy really, really cares. But
he's not a head football coach. He's just not.
That remains to be seen, but obviously this Detroit team is just cursed. It's just cursed, man. And again, like I said, I smell an 0-17 season coming.
I don't see many wins on this schedule, and they don't play the Jaguars, so that would be a shame. A showdown for the worst team in the league. Yeah, they are the most unlucky team I've ever seen. And Kirk Cousins, man, what the hell? Like, he's just like Jameis Winston. Like, he literally has a game where he throws like 4 touchdown passes and no interceptions. And the next game, he can throw 2 touchdowns and 4 picks. You just don't know what he's going to do game to game. That must be so damn frustrating to have to pay him all that money to know that they're just going to go 8-9 or 7-10 and not make the playoffs. It must suck to be a Vikings fan too. It's that long and bitter pain.
But apparently, the whole media is like praising them as like a dark horse, like contender, and I'm just like, they're not that.
Hell
good,
no. Hell no. Yeah.
All right. Steelers over the Broncos, 27-19.
Yes.
I don't really have a lot to say about this game.
I don't really either.
Yeah, the Steelers finally got the running game going. They got Najee Harris, 123 yards. He played well. Big Ben finally looked decent. Like I said, I know we talked about this earlier. I never count Pittsburgh out until the season's over. So they're not going to win the division, but like I said, I feel like they could wreak havoc. But yeah, the Broncos are a strange team. They started the season 3-0, and we were kind of feeling good about them, and they've just kind of faltered here recently. They of course they played a couple really good football teams. So
Well, of course they lost to the Ravens. Bridgewater gets hurt. You put in Drew Lock, you're not going to win a football game.
right.
And then here, Bridgewater came back, but how healed up was he from that concussion?
I was going to
that's what I
say,
want to know.
yeah,
That's what I want to know because it looked like a really bad concussion. But I
totally
don't know.
agree.
All right. The Buccaneers over the Dolphins, 45-17.
Tom
Bucks are
Brady still
cooking.
breaking records.
Bucks are cooking, man, and Brady 400 yards, 5 touchdowns at his age. It's just he just defies all logic that we've ever thought about football and about aging. Brady just he I mean, wow. That's all I can say is wow. He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT for a reason.
The Bears over the Raiders, 20-9.
Yeah.
Again, we've kind of. I mean, there's not really a whole lot to say. Good job by
Justin-
Justin Fields for getting.
I was
another
gonna
win.
say-
Fields 111 yards.
Yeah, good confidence booster for Fields and Khalil Herbert played well too. Nice to see that. Shout out
Former
Virginia Tech.
Hokie.
Yeah, the Bears are a team that they're essentially rebuilding. So I mean they're gonna have a game now and then where they look decent and their defense played well, for sure.
The Cardinals over the 49ers, 17-10. Looks like the 49ers might be tracking on a downhill pace. Trey Lance gets banged up in this game, and the Cardinals are the only undefeated team in the league. I remember talking in episodes past, writing the Cardinals off, and they're looking pretty darn good.
Yeah, I did too. But yeah, they are. This game wasn't perfect. It wasn't pretty, but they won the football game. That's all that matters. And that defense played very, very well for sure. And yeah, Kyler Murray, he's been great all season, and he's up there in the MVP conversation as well. I think he's probably in my top 5. 10 touchdowns, 4 picks this season. So yeah, he's been great.
Yeah, San Francisco. I mean, luckily they have a bye week this week, so they'll have a chance to heal up some more because I'm pretty sure George Kittle got hurt a little, got a little dinged up. Obviously, Trey Lance is hurt too, and it gives time for Jimmy G to come back. I think they need Jimmy G back at quarterback. Obviously, Trey Lance is he's still not ready to be a starter yet.
Mm-hmm.
He needs more time to develop. So all these people that were clamoring for Trey Lance, now you see why they didn't want to immediately throw Trey Lance in and why they stuck with Jimmy G. And yeah, for the Cardinals, I mean, they didn't come out unscathed in this game, though. They lost their starting tight end for the rest of the season with a knee injury. So
Yep.
that's going to suck for them.
It's a big loss.
And it looks like Chandler Jones is not going to play next week because he has contracted COVID. So it'll be interesting to see how they do next week.
All right. 2 words for you. Trayvon Diggs.
Go ahead, Carlos. Take it away.
I mean, what can I say? Dallas is going to win the division. We look fucking good. I'm on a pitch count on that word.
Yeah,
but,
easy now.
I needed to use it there.
Did you think you were going to look bad against the Giants? Did you think?
No, I mean, things didn't necessarily look Dallas still has not put a complete performance together. Like, we still haven't done it from start to finish where we just look dominant. We have not done that yet. Maybe against the Eagles. But, that's why this team is still so scary because, like, we still haven't even hit our, our stride yet. Like, we're still, like, figuring things out, But even in figuring things out, we look good. Dak Prescott is clearly going to win. Even this early in the season, he's going to win comeback player of the year. By the way he's going and playing it.
Totally
I think he's
agree.
really going to – and if he continues at this pace, I really think he's going to make a strong push for MVP, a very strong push. Whether he wins it, I don't know yet because, there are still some guys that are have them a little bit in front of him. But, and defensively, we didn't really miss Jalen Smith, did we? We didn't really miss a beat without him. So Yeah, Trayvon Diggs also just. I'm so happy he proved me wrong. I'm so happy he proved me wrong that he wasn't the number one. Because it's clear he is. 6 picks in 5 games now. It's ridiculous. This guy is. It's going to get to the point where people just aren't going to throw to his side of the field, and
a pick 6, right? Or 2 pick 6s. I can't remember. I think it's just 1.
I think it's 1.
Yeah.
But it's only a matter of time, before they just stop throwing to his side. So, good job by Dallas. We obviously have an interesting game against the Patriots coming up, and hopefully we get the job done and we go to 5-1.
Yeah, I'll say one thing. I felt extremely bad after seeing Daniel Jones get hit in the head. That looked awful. I'm hoping he gets better very soon. And Saquon Barkley with a ankle sprain as well.
Yeah, the Giants, the injuries are piling up, and they were injury riddled coming into this game, and it only got worse for them. So, yeah, they're not going to win a ton of football games this year either way. They were going to have a better chance with Barkley,
Saquon,
obviously, and Daniel Jones, but yeah, the Cowboys are one of the most impressive teams right now in the NFL. I think I would say that, especially on offense. They're just clicking on all cylinders, and you got Zeke now finally back 3 weeks in a row now. He's really performed extremely well, so makes me happy to see that because I've been down on him before the last few seasons, and Dallas is dominant. They put the D in dominant. What can I say?
Giggity.
This has been the Hurry Up Offense. We'll take a quick break and wrap things up right after this.
Hey there, this is Mark Francis of Icon Real Estate. If you have any real estate needs in the Winchester surrounding area, including West Virginia, give me a call. I've got extensive experience, been in the business for almost 20 years, and would love to help you out. Track me down at Icon Real Estate, iconsells.com, or even give me a call, 540-247-1527. Again, Icon Sells, ICONSELLS.com, and I would love to chat with you and help you out. Give me a call.
All right, wrapping things up here on the Kirby on Sports podcast with Dan Demski and the Swiss Army knife, Carlos Martinez. Gentlemen, what are we looking out for this week?
Washington Chiefs, the 3-man booth coming together live. Let's go. Let's go.
Let's go.
I think we're all in agreement that we're going to see a live NFL football game together.
Yep.
And we get to see generational talent in Patrick Mahomes. Win, lose, or tie, I get to see Patrick Mahomes.
That's
then we get to see generational mediocrity in Washington.
Yeah, I get to see
generational for the last 30 years
get blocked the entire game, but that's going to be fun. And we start to see bye weeks this week: the 49ers, Falcons, Jets, and Saints. I'll say one game.
I'll say one too, but go ahead.
Yeah,
Chargers, Ravens, obviously.
Yeah, I was going to say that one.
I think
we're
going to miss it.
Yeah, it sucks that we're going to miss it because we're going to be at the Washington. Dante's going to be there live, so maybe I'll message Dante and ask him what's going on.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I think the Chargers and Ravens is the only good slate out of this Sunday's matchups, in my opinion.
I kind of agree. I think there's some duds.
A lot of duds.
Yeah, especially when you have like the Bengals and Lions and the Dolphins and Jags. Well, the Dolphins and Jags, it's like if the Jags win that game, man, they're not gonna go winless. It's gonna be so clutch. But yeah, there's some duds this week. So I think that's the game that really stands out. I don't know. It should be a 4:00 game with Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. It shouldn't be a 1:00 game with like CBS D team. Nothing against the CBS D team, but it's just kind of ridiculous in my opinion. So.
Well, I will say I think the one thing that attributes to Washington being on CBS for 2 consecutive weeks is the fact that the MLB playoffs are going on, and Fox, I think, has to shuffle reporters in and out due to the fact that you have some reporters covering baseball, such as Adam Amin and Joe Davis. And you have to figure in to the equation, when is Joe Buck getting shipped off? What games is he going to have to miss? So on and so forth. The one thing I will go back to the Nats World Series run. The Washington football team played a Thursday night game against the Minnesota Vikings, and Joe Buck had a World Series game, the Nationals, on the Wednesday night. He flies out to Minnesota, calls the Vikings versus Washington, and then flies back to do the rest of the World Series. So, I mean, broadcasting legend right there, just going back and forth to switch games. It's very tough
to say the least. Yeah.
So that's one of the main reasons why, but I think that's why the scheduling is how it is, because of the way the MLB playoffs are situated. But I mean, that was just my thought on that.
You're right.
Carlos, any last thoughts? MLB playoffs or anything?
I don't care about baseball.
Okay. All right. Well, that about wraps it up for another edition of the Kirby on Sports podcast. You've been listening to myself, Josh Kirby, Dan Demski. Find him on Twitter at Dan_Demski97. And the Swiss Army knife, Carlos Martinez, in the Trumbull Insurance Agency virtual studio. Turn your stress and anxiety into peace and security with Trumbull Insurance. Make sure you contact Patrick Van Kemper at 540-532-0622 or send him an email at patrick@TrumbleAgency.com for all your insurance needs. For our sponsors, Regroup Building Services, PM Plus Reserves, Shenandoah Primitives, Dr. Dave Leadership Corporation, and Mark Francis with Icon Real Estate. Big thanks, as always, to Productions by Quet and Dave Johnson as well. Check out anything and everything, the Kirby on Sports podcast, at www.kirbyonsports.com. Until the next time you hear our voice, always remember to create greatness. So long and peace out.